Kraven the Hunter was supposed to come out this weekend, and to commemorate its pushback, I decided to watch all the latest Marvel films Sony have done. I say latest because I was a bit tempted to add like Ghost Rider on here, but I decided against it to keep that SpiderMan theme. And to not keep you waiting, I'll just start with the one film that caused this constant need of Sony to keep on making these films.
I am Venom.
I know this was like way back in 2018 and the Sony studio just wanted to maximize its profit, but why isn't this movie R-rated? There are a lot of quick cutaways and instances that just apply it was originally going to take a way darker tone. And secondly, why wasn't this film also not a horror movie? I understand same problem as back in 2018, it might not be the easiest to market an R-rated horror comic book movie, but be different, be your own thing rather than trying to be the generic comic book movies like your competition, because there is so much on here that implies that this film was going to take a different route. I watched Species recently, this bodily horror film from the 90s, and Venom could have literally taken the good parts of that movie and put it on here and it might have worked, but knowing as it's Sony, they would have messed it up. But like, just take the risk. Okay, it's been like $100 million risk, but still, the stars, we see this symbiote going from host to host, trying to make its way to America to do its big plan, and that's the missed opportunity for me. The fact that the whole plot of the movie could have been that, them trying to catch this on the run symbiote with this antagonist, and maybe the antagonist betrayed him when he got corrupted with the symbiote. And on the topic of this antagonist, they just put generic rich revolutionary bad guy and called it a day with him, because I understand there are some evil soulless people out there in the world, but his cause to be evil is just crazy. I don't even understand what his plan is, because they found the symbiote on an asteroid or meteor or something, but I'm presuming that it's a smaller rock than Earth. So why do you want to symbiotes with these characters, with these creatures, so we can live on a dead piece of rock? Even Venom is like, I don't even like where I'm coming from, I prefer it here, it's way better here. But to be fair, the symbiote antagonist did not want to really do that. He wanted to bring his guys to Earth like Transformer style, but still. And to talk about what I like about the film, I think it's pretty solid. Lots to still love about it. I love the Venom and Eddie Brock relationship, it's pretty cool. I'm just realizing that Tom Hardy voiced him, but I'll talk about more of that in the second film. But yeah, having this real second persona is just really cool, maybe different from its source material, but see, I don't mind it. This is still one of my favorite iterations of the Venom character in live action, but that's not really saying much. Just going to add, there's this one cool scene I really like where like the SWAT or whatever is like mask, copy, and Eddie goes mask and Venom says copy. That was hard.
Mask! Copy! Mask!
Copy.
What the hell is that thing?
Also love the supporting cast of Michelle Williams as Anne, Reed Scott as Dan, and obviously Miss Shen. And that's really where this film shines for me, the relationship between those characters and the banter that just made it a really enjoyable watch throughout its experience. But aside what I started with, the film not exactly not knowing what it wants to be, and the end playing it safe with this generic superhero trope. Another issue I had with it was its conclusion. I already talked about how the human antagonist was like super generic, and even the symbiote was a bit of wasted potential. Like, I don't even remember the symbiote's name, and the entire fight just was this huge CGI fest. And honestly, I don't even have a problem with that, especially when it's done well, but it's just seeing these slime creatures just toss it up together, and dumb as the bad guy was, terrorizing the streets of San Francisco with no fear of repercussion, those were the better action sequences in this movie, and I just can't tell what's happening in the one at the end, and I don't even care for it also. Also paired with the weird pacing that 80% of this film happens in that same night. I get Venom is fast, but it's kind of funny how they attack his house at night, does this whole big car chase, then he goes for a swim and he talks to Venom for the first time, he drops the evidence against the antagonist, more fight sequences, he then drives to the hospital with Anne, then loses the symbiote, then gets it back, goes to the different side of the city to meet that like rocket thing, and has that fight with Riot. I remember his name now. And he does all of that in one night. It's pretty OD.
There's gonna be carnage.
Venom Let There Be Carnage, this was my first time watching this for this video, and halfway in I was like, was this film made by the same creative team? I mean, it changed a bit because the film just feels way different from the first film. Because remember how I said that first film could have been this bodily horror type of movie? Yeah, they completely destroyed that approach in this film. And see, maybe because they don't throw those signs there, I don't hate it as much, but just that complete 180 switch to go deeper into this MCU formula. I mean, it's technically better because of that. It now has like this identity that it sticks to, but watching this movie back to back from that first film just makes me hate it for that. Going to start with his characters, mainly the Venny-Eddie Brock relationship, which was great in the first film because it starts with like Eddie having no idea what's controlling him, who this Venom symbiote is, and we aren't even introduced to Venom till like an hour later. But just the growth from that bond into this second voice in Eddie's head, and Eddie getting more control into the balance of the relationship. And you would think the sequel will have that same approach or something similar. And see, not to sound like an absolute idiot, it does have aspects that are better than the first film in terms of that relationship. Like they have this toxic relationship, like a marriage, if you can say, with Venom cooking and Eddie just moaning about something. And the movie as a whole just focuses mainly on the Eddie Brock and Venom relationship, and how even after they split, they still care about each other. Eddie's talking to himself like Venom is there, and Venom goes out and mopes about Eddie not accepting him and being like, oh, I can do this by myself, if only Eddie could like accept him. But I don't know, it just felt something off, something different from that first film. And like threw away that serious tone with the characterization of those two characters. They made Eddie from this investigative reporter to this doofus in this movie, while Venom was the more intelligent voice of reason. But I think their plan to balance it out with making Venom less humane, which makes sense. But be for real, they could have just made them a proper team where Eddie teaches Venom like a more humane approach into everything and be the smarter guy, while Venom is more of the logical person and obviously the Bruce power, the Force. And it's kind of funny how they never even brought up the origin of Carnage. I know we see it, but I would have liked an explanation as to why, let me say, both of them can live together, for example. Maybe I missed it, but it was a bit weird that they didn't even bring that up. And that comes to my second problem with this movie, and it's just the MCUification of the film. We get more of this MCU type villain, and it works compared to the last guy. Out of all the movies that I watched for this video, this was the best, with like the best antagonist. But the thing is, it could have been better. I just feel like they didn't take him as seriously or even make him like this massive threat. They wasted both the Woody Harrelson character and Carnage because they really did not give him any reason for the vendetta against Eddie Brock. And you can make the argument that the guy's a sociopath, he doesn't need a reason for that and all of that. But at the end of the movie, they say he was not, and that doesn't make sense because he literally killed his nan and his mother. And how that ties with Eddie Brock makes no sense. Isn't the whole basis of the symbiote relationship filled by hatred and all of that? They had a huge potential to work with that because this was the only one that they had a chance to explore, like a character that is related to Eddie Brock and a character that maybe Eddie Brock and Venom can hate. But they failed in all marks, which is weird because the film is really short. Why couldn't they just extend maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes just to add that in? The action sequences here are probably some of the best across all the other films. Even the final big symbiote crossover was cool and was a massive improvement from that first movie. There was also like this CGI bits where like Woody Harrelson's character and the girl like break out of the facility. I thought that was cool. It was a bit janky, but I thought it looked cool. I also enjoyed the character moments with Eddie and Anne, something I loved in the first film, and I love how it transcended on here. And even Dan, I love the fact that Dan was kept on being included in this movie. He plays such a minor role, but it's like, he's so fun, and I love like, I just love the character. You can't hate Dan. You literally can't hate Dan in this film. With the fundamental characters, they do a really, really good job to be entertained by them. Even Mrs. Chen, for example, she gets the symbiote and that was fun. Overall, I think this movie, I would have enjoyed it if I didn't watch it back to back with the first film. Because I enjoyed like the mature, it's not really like a crazy mature film, but like the mature tone that first film had compared to the more playful MCU cartoonish style that this film had. And I feel like in those regards, this film is pretty solid for that. Let There Be Carnage has its problems, but I believe like it should have been easier to change the problems in this film than the problems with Venom, if you get what I'm trying to say. I feel like Venom needed to like completely change its entire script to make that film really, really good. But here, you could just tweak a couple things and this film would have been an okay flick.
I am Venom.
If I wasn't doing anything while watching this in the background, I would have struggled to finish this. This film has this weird, edgy tone and it takes itself like too seriously at times. Whereas some of the dumbest things tend to happen. Like at the start, the guy like calls bats or something with this machine and the bat kills everybody but Morbius survives. Well, at least that's how they make it look like. And how does he even manage to transport the bats if everybody with the helicopter and everything like dies? I feel they looked at Venom and they were like, how can we make this film as loved as Venom? And for something that they had to like completely change a lot of things because it's like two different characters, they just took the terrible aspects of that. Because you could have copied, you had like a blueprint that you could have copied and it would have worked. Or in fact, any vampire film that has come out, you could have copied the good things of it and you could have had a pretty okay action comic book movie. The film also suffers because like it's a 2-hour film and nothing happens. Like I'm currently struggling to grasp on what to talk about, good or bad things. Some of the fight sequences are cool, I guess, but even at that, like the final fight with Venom is jarring, if not worse than the Venom final fight. Matt Smith is in this, and his rogue sort of reminds me of Cletus in Venom 2, but at least this time they give him like a slight ounce of motivation. But still, we don't really see any reason why he should be jealous of Morbius, because it's implied that he funds his work, so it doesn't that mean he works for him, so he's doing better than him. They also try to throw some tragic backstory that a regular kid or regular kids try to beat him up, and he wants to take revenge on normal people. Firstly, I don't really think kids will beat up another kid, especially a kid that looks like that. Maybe the worst type of people in the world will make fun of him, but beating him up is insane. And with all that anger and hatred he has fueled over the years, he takes it on a couple of guys in a bar. And like the thing with that scene is that he's just like standing or sitting on that gargoyle thing for God knows how long. He just waited for them to come out. Last thing I have on the Milo character, and it's crazy how his name wasn't even Milo, but they just stuck with it. But why did he come into the prison disguised that he still had the disease? What was the point of that? Like, if he was trying to keep a low profile, he still ended up leaving like he was a regular guy, and he left his cane there with the blood. How did they allow him to go in on search in that holding cell? Isn't there like a place to put people that have visitors? Man, I have no clue. Crazy the amount of talent they even had signed for this movie. I low-key think that Jared Leto is still looking for that iconic role, his Johnny Depp, his Batman, something. Because he tried the Joker, everybody hated that failed. And he was so down bad probably, so he did this. You also have like Matt Smith that I just mentioned. You have Tyrese from the Fast and Furious films. Even Jared Harris. Adriana Arjona is also in this film, but I'll give her like this was pretty earlier in her career, but that was probably the only thing that made this film bearable for me, for the aspects that I was actually paying attention. Not that they just killed off a character or like they did it like, oh, what is this movie? No stakes. What's the point? Also, this has to be the worst post-credit scene I have ever seen in my life. Like, I don't understand what the Sony guys were thinking. They thought they were cooking, but lock the kitchen and keep them far away from it. It's like they did two scenes with both actors and they could even have them on the same day. It's such a pointless scene, because even some terrible films have had like really cheesy, dumb post-credit scenes, like Black Adam, for example. But at least like you're thinking, oh, that would be a cool thing to see, you know, Black Adam versus Superman. But this is like, who wants to see this? Who cares about this? Yes, I want to see like a Sinister Six or a variation of that, but I don't care. I don't care about freaking even. Oh gosh, let me just leave it like that. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, they managed to make Madam Web. And my main issue with this movie is that, why was this made? People say it's like because Sony have to keep on making films for the Spider-Man rights, but we know that they're making Kraven the Hunter. It was supposed to come out this weekend. Venom 3 is going to come out this year too. And I can also argue about Kraven for that same point, but isn't Venom 3 enough for the year? Why make a film that vaguely represents a comic book film, let alone a Spider-Man movie? I don't know anything about the Madam Web character, but clearly the creatives didn't even bother to learn anything on their salary. Because at the start of this film, it's awful. So many questions like, a guy funding the whole operation, why does he have to hold this poor lady at gunpoint and kill her? You can just take it from her. Bro, even if you want to be aggressive with it, you're probably strong enough to push away this pregnant woman and take it from her. It just makes no sense to kill her and potentially kill her baby for that. And after all of that, atrocious VFX, costumes just as bad. These Spider-Man people try BS. They just look like some African Spider-Man ripoff. And after that, aside the antagonist that gets a total of 7 minutes of screen on time, we never see anything spider related again. Madam Web does not even web around. The reason why you have 3 supposed teenage girls, come on, Sydney Sweeney, you're not fooling anyone. It's probably the promotion, and we should actually sue them for false advertising. Dialogue is just as bad, and I don't even know who to blame, because these are good actors for the most part. Primarily, the one I'm talking about is even Adam Scott and Dakota Johnson, because what is this?
Apparently I have no future.
Cassie, do you know what this means?
What?
It means that their printer is broken. We can't eat here anymore.
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry, man. I wasn't thinking about it.
There's also this part where Dakota goes for Emma Roberts' baby thing, and they play this game called Guess What the Baby's Name Is. See, I don't know what certain people do for these events, but guess what the baby's name is? It's just ridiculous, because what sort of Peter Parker edging is that? Like, what? Why? Aside the dumbest bait for fan service, why waste my time doing this BS? Something like that. I think I fell asleep at this point because I just couldn't care. And when I woke up to start the film from where I stopped, I just questioned what the point of putting myself in this torture was. If you really want to know what my thoughts of this film is, just watch my Madam Web video. You see my thoughts there, but why the hell would you even want to do that? The antagonist is another thing. If I was to rank the villains in each film, he will easily be the worst, with the Venom one taking third place. And like, the Venom villain was pretty bad. So just, oh gosh. See, this video was supposed to be me ranking these movies, but I don't even know, because it started off great with the first two films, but do I even need to rank? Because you already know the order. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to see my Venom 3 and Craven the Hunter reviews when those films drop. Bye.